things that we want to learn is the 10 plagues of Egypt. Now, we think that it's important to highlight that when Moses came to Pharaoh and said, "Let my people go," we always emphasize that Pharaoh had a choice. He had a choice of whether or not he was going to let God's people go or not. And he chose not to. And so God chose 10 plagues in order to kind of get through to him. So what we're going to do today is we're going to learn how to do our 10 plagues, recite our 10 plagues in order. So the first one that we're going to do is we're going to do, much like our 10 commandments, is we're going to use all 10 fingers. So get out your 10 fingers, and what we're going to do is we're going to take out finger number 1, all right? And on finger number 1, we're going to act like we're going to prick our finger, okay? So finger number 1, we're going to prick it, ow, okay? And usually when you prick your finger, you draw blood, all right? And so the first plague is the plague of blood. If you remember, Moses went to Pharaoh, said, "Let my people go." He said no, and so Moses turned the Nile River into blood. It was a place where people ate food from the fish. It was a place that watered many of their crops, and so God was trying to get Pharaoh's attention through the plague of blood. He turned it into blood so they weren't able to do those things. So that was the first thing. Pharaoh didn't go over real well with him. All right, so then there was number 2, the second plague. So we're going to get out number 2. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to take your number 2, and I want you to bend them down, okay? I don't know if you can see or not, but I want you to look at the fingernails right here, all right? And fingernails are going to represent eyes. And so we're going to go ribbit, ribbit, ribbit. If you can't tell, that's going to be the eyes of a frog. So the second plague was the plague of frogs. And the frogs went into their houses, it went into their kitchens, it was in their bathrooms, in their bed. Everywhere they went, those frogs were there. Again, it didn't convince Pharaoh to let the people, the Hebrew people, go completely. All right, so then you came to number 3. All right, number 3, again, a lot like the 10 Commandments. We're going to do the number 3 like this. And then I want you to take this and I want you to kind of stick it in your hair and just kind of scratch a little bit like that. Yeah. The third plague was the plague of lice. Plague of lice. Some versions may say the plague of gnats, but let's just be honest. Both are pretty nasty and I don't want either one in my hair. All right. So we had the plague of blood, plague of frogs, plague of lice. All right. Then we get to number 4 rather, and number 4 is another bug. All right. And we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, all right? And we're going to put this down here, and this is going to pretend like these are wings. Zzz, all right? This is the plague of flies, all right? So number 4 is the plague of flies. Now, number 5 is a little different. We're going to get out our number 5 hand, and what I want you to do is I want you to kind of bring it down like this, and we're going to pretend that we've got an animal. So this is going to be its neck, and this is going to be its head right here, and then your other 4 fingers are going to work like legs, all right? So we're going to pretend that this is a cow or a goat or a sheep, because the next plague is the plague of livestock. And the kids really like this one because typically what we do is we have the livestock die, all right? So we tip it over and we typically will go, all right? So the plague of livestock, you have your animal and God sent the plague on them and many of the cattle died, and so the plague of livestock is the animals die, all right? Then you get into number 6. Now number 6 is a little gross, all right? So we have our number 6, all right? If you remember, there was a plague of boils, all right? And boils are, I tell the kids, are very similar to a scab, all right? So you go down on your hand. So you take your 6, go down on your hand, look right here, and pretend that there's a scab on your hand. And I have all the kids go, ew, yeah, that's right, all right? So the plague of boils, number 6. All right, then we get into number 7. Now in number 7, we're going to go back to our animal, all right? So we got our 5 hand, so we're going to make our animal again with our 5 hand. Well, then you got 2 over here. 5 plus 2 is 7. So you got your animal with your 5 hand. And with your 2 hand, you're going to bring them up way up high, and then you're going to have them come down and go, all right? That is the plague of hail, all right? Big old chunks of ice falling from the sky. They're going to hit the animals. Actually, they were hitting all kinds of things. Trees, people, houses, and making all kinds of a mess. All right, but for all practical purposes, we're going to go back to our animal, and we're going to have the hail come from the sky. All right, number 8, again, is going to be similar to our 10 Commandments. So get out your forefinger and your forefinger. And what we're going to do on this one is we're going to go shoo, 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 shoo. And number 8, if you remember, is the plague of locusts. And locusts are essentially very similar to grasshoppers. And they come in and they swarm and they get into the crops and they eat everything. And so God tried to get Pharaoh's attention by the locusts coming in and eating all the crops. And again, he wouldn't let the people go fully. All right, so then after you have number 8, plague of locusts, then you get into number 9. All right, what you're going to do with number 9 is you're going to take this hand. It's going to be your 5 hand. 5 plus 4 is 9. And you're going to take this one. You're going to cover your eyes. All right, and then you're going to take this hand. You're going to put it out like this. And so you're in darkness and you're pretending to feel your way around. And if you haven't already guessed, number 9 is the plague of darkness. All right, then we get into the last one, number 10. As you can remember, God is trying to speak to Pharaoh this entire time. He's not listening, but there's one thing that God chooses to take away, and that is his firstborn son. And so all the Hebrews put the blood over their doorways. That was the very first Passover, and so the angel of death passed over their doorways and only went into doorways where there wasn't the blood. And so when the fathers or mothers walked in the next morning, what we do with our 10 fingers is they walk in and they see their child that was dead, and they go, oh! All right, so that's number 10. All right, so there you go. So those are the 10 plagues of Egypt that you can learn for MKU.